diagram on the board as well. So in the discussion, you'll say, okay, so let's look at this one. We think that these arms are used for feeding. So we're assuming then that it's a predator, right? And how could we test that? Well, if we had live specimens in a tank, then we could take them introducing different food sources to see if they actually are predators and are they actually using the arms for feeding to capture the prey. So they go through that, and you go through that, and that takes all of this takes like about the first 40% of the lab time. And the teaching notes, it's got it broken down for times there to help you out. Okay, so then you go, all right, so those are some ideas as to what these external features are. So now we're going to do the internal. Okay, we're going to do the internal. And during this external part, float around, and if they're kind of only, pointing out obvious things, if nobody's pointed it out, then you might point it out. Say, hey, why don't you flip it over for me? And go, wow, that's kind of an interesting observation. Look at the difference between this side and this side here. Maybe point out the color pigmentation on them, that on one side it seems to be, more plentiful in pigmentation than the other side. What could be a function of that? Sometimes these get kind of ripped apart when they're separated. I try to keep them together, but you might point out, if nobody's pointed it out, like, well, wow, look at these, whatever arms they are here, but look at these two here are much longer than the other ones, okay? And look at these two right here. They seem to, they're not all, are they all the same? Those two are a lot longer. What do you think could be the function of those as opposed to the other ones that are shorter? And so just some things to point out if they, if they're just sticking to the obvious. Okay, so that's for the external. All right. And so you give them the instructions that, well, now it's time, we're going to open them up. And the easy way to open them up is to flip it to the side that has less pigmentation, okay, less pigmentation or less spots. And then you'll notice it kind of looks like this tube here sticking down. So what you want to do is gently, put your finger under and the scissors, and you want to kind of lift this outer covering and cut here up as far as you can, and then just fold that over, and that will expose the internal organs. Be careful so you don't damage them. Pin it down, the flap open, and then go ahead, use your tweezers and your probes we're doing the same process. We want to figure out what are the functions of the organs inside. We, again, remind you, we're not concerned about the names. So if you think, oh, that's a spleen, or that's a lung, or a gill, okay, we don't care about the names. Again, if you can use a name if you want, but we want to focus on the functions of them, All right, so then you do the same process, okay, the same process, put it up on the board, do the discussion again, okay, do the discussion again. And to wrap the lab all up, you say, okay, this is what scientists do when they discover something. If we don't have a living specimen, then we try the best we can with observations. Before you have them, open it up, you could say you do have a syringe. We've got some dye over there so that you can, do some experiments to maybe follow. If you think something's to do with digestion, well, inject some of the food coloring in there and see where it goes. But again, we're not looking at, on the lab concept sheet, we do have labeled diagrams for you, just in case you're curious what the actual names of the organs are. But you're not going to be quizzed over, this is the heart, this is the brain, this is the eye. That's not the purpose. The purpose is the process of going through the scientific method in order to develop hypotheses about the functions of these organs, and then how you could test them, all that good stuff. So that's what the focus of this lab is. And the very last part, after you have them clean up, is you got to save 10 minutes to have them watch a video. Okay? The video, it's about 10 minutes, and it's on squid and from a BBC Creatures Down Under, or Incredible Suckers, that's what it was called. And it shows video of the squid in their natural environment, and different, it shows them reproducing, it shows them doing some camouflage, some really cool camouflage, and how their, the pigmentation changes and stuff. So you do want to make sure that you allow enough time for that, for the video, and for cleanup, okay, and for cleanup. So, because otherwise it will stink in here for weeks. Okay. Any questions? This one's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, kind of like the isopod one. We're utilizing the scientific process that way. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I do have a question. So, I'm not sure if any of my students will actually be like this, but is there sometimes a problem with squeamishness? And obviously they still have to do the lab, but is there anything?
Right. We don't have an alternative assignment for the lab. If they say, "Well, I don't eat meat," okay, you don't eat meat. You don't have to touch it. I'm not asking you to eat it, and if you don't want to touch it, that's fine. But you do have to sit there, observe, and participate. Okay, and participate. We haven't ever had anybody faint. Okay. So I wouldn't, yeah. Just take it as each situation comes about. Just kind of use your best judgment. But yeah. And we do have a model that I will set out on the over here. The model it's a museum mount, and it does have the things labeled on the back. They're labeled with letters on the front, but just if they want to look at it. I'll set out another dissecting microscope. If they want to carry carefully their pan to put it under the dissecting scope to zoom in on something, that's fine. That's fine as well.
Do they get a squid per two?
A squid per 2 students, okay. Yes. Yeah, squid per 2 students. It's funny, the first time that I ordered the squid,